What's going on, my creative collective? Welcome to your July 29th daily creative reading. We're going to hop on in here. It is a most auspicious day. This is Charlie Day, so which sounds super pretentious, but I promise I'll explain. It's just this is a year since I've transitioned and come out, and so many wonderful and amazing things have happened. So many different things have come up, and it's been an amazing journey, and I'm so glad. I feel like there's just so many things that have come to life in my heart since coming out. And for, I feel like, yeah, it's something else. It's something else, and I'm so glad to be here, and I'm so glad to have survived as long as I did, with this part of me inside, and now that it gets to live in the sun, and I get to be me. I get to be me. Like, so me that I don't even know, it brings me so much joy, and it makes me so damn happy. So that's the kind of day that I wish for you, for first and foremost. I know I will be celebrating on a trail. I've got my eyes set on one in and around Niagara Falls, so I'm very excited for that. Yeah, so the Niagara Glen. We'll see. We'll see what the weather holds, but yeah. Oh, I'm so pumped. Anyway, so we're going to hop in here. So I would like to invite the angels, my guardian angels, my spirit guides, protectors, teachers, and their healing energy to this space. And I ask that it is a safe and brave space, as well as a protected space that allows for the fullest expression of our light, humanity, ascension, and healing. I didn't set the intention before I jumped into the reading, so I wanted to make sure I did that. Thank you so much, Spirit. Okay, so let's see where the day takes us. Let's see. I put together a special video for a little bit later today, just to talk about that and to offer some gratitude up, and in celebration of Charlie Day, but also just what that means for you. Think about your Charlie days. How do you celebrate them? Be they days where you've come out as a trans person and transitioned, or otherwise, right? And yeah, I don't know what to call it. Like, rebirth day feels weird, and it doesn't really honor the trans part of me that's been there the whole time. So Charlie Day it was, but yeah, let's do this. Okay, so I'm gonna pull this here and this. Oh, take flight. Ooh, I have goosebumps. Oh, the joy. That's beautiful. Okay. So this one we have celebrate life. Okay. Dear you, uncertainty is the new normal for the whole world. Things are changing at a rapid pace, and the old ways we once trusted are no longer reliable. I feel like that's very true of gender. But leaving the familiar behind can be a good thing. When you are pushed to step into the unknown, you are pulled forward into discovering new possibilities that have been hidden in plain sight. Check in with your higher power. Your soul knows better than your small self. Have faith in the support of a higher power and the infinite potential for your life. Right now, the advice we have for you is this: try something new, do something different. You won't know how it feels, what it looks like, or what the outcome will be if you do. If you do not take that first step into the unknown and experience the unfamiliarity, you'll be so glad you did, because the treasure will appear. We're so proud of you for being we're so proud of you for being brave. You are so loved and so supported. I just heard the words, "You're a goddamn cheetah." Oh, Glennon Doyle. That book is so good. Untamed. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. I feel like you need to be in your cheetah self today. Not just because it's Charlie Day, but generally speaking. And it's Friday. That's always exciting. And I don't know if there's a long weekend in the US, but if you're in Canada, we have a long weekend. Whether national or provincial, I'm not sure. So let me say Ontario. If you're in Ontario, I'll make it a little more granular. Spirit, what messages do you have for my daily creatives, please? Messages for my daily creatives for July 29th, please. The Hanged Man. The Sun. Ooh, that's beautiful. Seven of Cups. King of Cups. Okay. King of Cups. Eight of Swords. Eight of Pentacles. The Hermit. Seven of Swords. The Lovers. Ooh. Ew, that's awesome. The Two of Cups. Wow. Okay. No big deal. Just a whole lot of love here. Let me do this. It darkens it, but that's fine. It looks like you can't see it because there's light here, but it's like super ambient lighting in the room. It's like a sensory tarot experience. So at the outset, I do feel like there's a little bit of a pause. It could just be like a way that you're pausing to reflect. With the Hangman, I see like this is sort of like a reflection energy, but I think that there's information that's been slow to arrive, possibly to do with relationships and connections. Relationships and connections. And I feel a bit like there's this aspect of fulfillment that you're reaching, and maybe this is a bit where, let's say this is work or you're in a relationship already. It's almost like there was something you needed to be fulfilled within and feel fulfilled from first before the relationship stuff could be addressed. So there was something entirely and exclusively related to you, because the call to adventure here, right, in this hero spread is the Seven of Cups. So that's sort of the looking at all of the potentials, looking at all of the options and opportunities. And it's not about looking at like people as opportunities. It's looking at the opportunities for you to express your light, to express your joy, because we have the Hanged Man and the Sun here, which is sort of like the pause, right? To me, it's like a pause to reflect on where we're emplacing that joy, a pause to reflect on how we're going to, put this energy through. This can come across as stagnant energy at times, but I think that there's like a deliberate approach that's in service to your joy here with the Sun being in this position. But the call to adventure is so good. But this is where it's like, how many, let me count the ways that you can express this joy in the relationship that you're in, at work, on a creative project. It's almost like your gratitude muscle is really strong. Like it's been strengthening, or it's really strong right now. So that's brilliant, right? It's an excellent practice to get into, not just because you want to feather your nest as you go to sleep or wake up or whatever. It's also so that you can see, like you begin to resonate with opportunities that are like Seven of Cups and Sun. Like you can't make wrong choices. You can't make wrong choices. Not because there are no wrong choices, but because you aren't really resonating with the ones that will be kind of harmful for you. Yeah. But I think it's also that you chose yourself first, and that opens up this whole world of possibility. It just opens up everything. It opens up everything. The King of Cups could become a tower if it goes unchecked. So for me, this represents ignoring your feelings about something, right? Like, sometimes you can be grateful, and it's an intellectual exercise, as opposed to saying, hey, that particular situation really makes me feel amazing, or that particular job, or that particular human, right? This is like looking at it that way, so we can intellectualize it and be like, well, this seems that blah 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 blah. No. No, because when you get into that place, you disconnect from it's not possibility, because the possibility will exist regardless, but it's like you're disconnecting from a part of yourself, right? And I get it. Like, I'm an Aquarius. People talk about it all the time. Like, you're so disconnected from your feelings. No, it's not that. It's wanting to, for me at least, I don't know about other Aquarians, but those that I've talked to and know, this is kind of a shared thing. It's like there are so many different ways that emotions can do harm when there's no intention behind them. So for me, it's less about intellectualizing, although that is something I do sometimes. I'm not going to be like, I'm going to blow smoke up my own ass. No, I do that sometimes, but it's about understanding that emotions have so much power to them. They have so much power, and part of their power is that when you're not intentional about them, you're disconnected from yourself. So what looks like taking, your sweet time to decide something or withholding, it's not that at all. It's just wanting to understand and be intentional, because you go deep within, and then you bring that out, right? Then you bring that out. So, just to any, fellow depth of feelers who seem disconnected and detached. I know we're not. But I think that this is the thing that could become a tower. The reason why I'm seeing this here is like it could become a tower if you let your emotions run you, or if you go to the far end, the other end of that spectrum, and disconnect from them altogether. There's like balance in the middle, which sounds like the most trite advice ever. But it's about understanding that expectations push you more to the side of too much emotion, because then you're trying to drum up the feeling to bring you to the outcome that you've created in your mind, right? So that it takes you to that finish line, so you can feel the finish line, but you get attached to that because when it comes to love and emotions, and this includes joy at work or on projects, there shouldn't be an end state, right? How are you making it sustainable? I think I talked about this week. Don't raise the bar. Like lower the bar, raise the floor so that it meets you, right? So that regardless of what happens, there's a depth of emotion that's based in security, and that's emotional stability. It's also, I think, a little bit of emotional maturity. And I think as well, honestly, I think that there's a way that, you can get disconnected from your emotions. The protagonist position here makes me think that there might be an inclination more towards the side of too much, 11:11 on the time. Because it's the Eight of Swords, right? And the way that this is depicted is it almost reminds me of a watery energy, right? Like a reflecting pool, or scrying. Yeah, I guess, yeah, because it almost looks like a pool, even though it may be a mirror. But it's a way of, I think it's more a way of seeing yourself. um, could be a way of seeing yourself. And the thing that I'm finding really interesting, so what's coming up right now is just the idea that emotional maturity is something that we prize, right? We prize so much. We put a very high price tag on that in relationships. We put a very high value on that in the world. But emotional maturity is also a pseudo intellectualization of emotions. If you focus too heavily on one side of those spectrum, right? Usually more towards the disconnected side, right? So it's like detached leadership, right? That's the things that, a lot of Aquarians are prized for, or like, applauded for, are then the same things that when it comes to emotions, the other side of that comes out. So it's almost understanding that emotional maturity does not mean disconnection. Emotional maturity does not mean disregard for your emotions, right? It's emotional intimacy is almost like the remedy to that. It's the remedy. It's the salve that brings it together in a way that heals you, in a way that's healing. Now, what's showing up in the protagonist position here is it's almost like the reason why this is showing up in the protagonist position, the Eight of Swords tends to represent mental patterns that kind of keep you in a state of bondage and being stuck, right? So you're stuck in position. Frozen in motion, that line, the line from the song Head and Heart, frozen in motion. But the chorus is like, oh, I can't remember. Now it's gone. Okay, that's fun. Thank you, Spirit. 1313 was just on the time. So like you become frozen in motion, really, is what happens. And maybe that is this aspect of head over heart, right? Your protagonist position is showing up as kind of a head position, right? But the thing that could become a tower is this King of Cups if it goes unchecked. And unchecked just means untended to, right? Like there's a thyme plant in the backyard right now that I have not done much gardening this year. And I will tell you that thing is like overrun the garden, right? It's like a time gone wild. And I feel like that's kind of what can happen here with emotions. And emotions just meaning that they're expressed. Like, express your emotions, journal about them, talk to specific people about specific things, recognize what emotions work for you and what ones don't. A great book that I read years ago, I think it was 2014 when I bought it. It's still called Emotional Intimacy by Robert Augustus Masters. It was an excellent book because it brought into my consciousness the idea of befriending emotions and looking at the nuances of what the basics of them are, and then fleshing out a more complex definition, right? Fleshing out a more complex verbiage for each one, and befriending the ways that they show up. That's really where it's like, if it goes unchecked, it's like that's what that refers to here. you don't have to like dive into hard work and make a job out of it or anything like that. It's just recognizing it and, saying like, oh, I'm feeling disappointed by this situation. Why? Okay, I don't need to stay here, but okay, that's disappointment. Okay, I've been here before and I know how to handle this, and I'm going to handle this regardless. Okay, so I just need to feel it. And then if you need to cry, cry. It's like alchemizing the emotions and letting them out so they don't get stuck, right? And I think that's part of what this is, because this may also come from, feeling stuck because the emotions aren't being expressed somewhere. And that can just be sometimes like, for example, if you have feedback that you hold back on and you're like, oh, it's just going to get so much louder in you. And that's like when I do readings and I'm channeling, I know, like the other day I told a story about experiences that I had in grad school and I was like, oh, ugh. But I knew that if I didn't if I didn't tell that story, it would have gotten louder and louder and louder in my consciousness. And it would have changed the way that information was being channeled through. So that's the way our energy works, right? So it's not just about whether you're channeling and whether you're doing tarot. It's also, to me, about how you're expressing that in the world, like how you're expressing your energy. And sometimes it just gets like bound up and twisted, like a kink in a hose. That's like those bends where you're like, doing your thing, watering the garden, blah, 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 whatever. And then you're like, oh, like the stream of water just stops, right? That's kind of how energy flow, what you can use a metaphor to think of with it. And I think the antagonist position is kind of acting as though nothing's wrong, like acting as though not that nothing's wrong, but acting as though like there's a status quo that you're just burying under heaps of work. And I think that can become again something that we cherish, right? We cherish hard work, and that's like, this is almost the definition of like hustle culture right here, right? Like it's emotional maturity, but at what cost, right? What does that mean? Are we saying emotional maturity when we really mean something else? And I think this is also about being specific with your emotions too. It frustrates me when I see sometimes I go into comment sections, not so much anymore, but I'll see like very broad or nebulous definitions of something. So there's an absence of specificity that makes it so that all that can come from that particular conversation or arguments, all that can come from that particular, foray into a topic or idea is discord and upset, because we're all coming from different specificities. So until we define something specifically around our emotions, nope, that's the one I was trying to tap on. That, yeah, around our emotions, I think the tower too can be that sense of like there needs to be specificity. It's okay. Do you feel happy? Yes. And this is a way that we can compliment people in our lives without it being about appearance and being like, you're hot. Like that's a great compliment to get. Yes. But what about the nuances of someone's mind, right? As an Aquarian with Gemini placements that are super duper strong, I vibe with that. Like, and it's not saying like you're so smart, but it's like the compliments that mean something are, so for example, when I'm at work, I see it so much. I have wonderful people that I work with, and they just have this way of bringing such a richness to their encounters with people that come in, right? And it's like I'm very vocal. I'll say like, this is amazing. Do you know how this, like, that person walked away feeling so amazing, and you could see it written all over their face, and all you did was just see them where they were, and just worked with that. But and it's not even compliments. It's just the energy. It's the vibe that they carry with them. So it's like meeting things there. And I don't know why this, like, King of Cups is really loud. Like, seems like a quiet dude, but pretty chatty. Yeah. So I think it's like, it's being specific, right? And sometimes you can say like, I like you, or you can say I'm interested, or you can say I really like this project, or you can say I really like work like this. But what's your why, right? What's your why? Because the why is also the vulnerability. The why is the part that gets you somewhere in the middle of that spectrum of too much emotion and total disconnect, right? The why places you on the spectrum, but it also means that you're invested in something, and not necessarily attached, but it means that you have part of your heart on the line in something. So it can be scary to admit that, right? And I think that's where it's like, this is kind of working in your favor here. And the challenge to overcome is this hermit. It's not the wisdom to overcome. It's the inclination to be, I almost see this as like, being like, assuming that being in a hermit place of isolation a little bit will protect you, right? It'll protect you. And I think the overcoming here, it's interesting that it's the Seven of Swords, because this tends to be seen as like the thievery card, right? Like the the lying, cheating, stealing card, but I see this as more so boundaries. Like this is your articulation of your whole sense of self in a way that has defied what you might be taught about your right or your ability to declare your needs as important. Like, yeah, they matter. They matter. And it's not just the needs of like, oh, I need things to be, for me, like I sleep with earplugs in, so quiet is kind of a moot point. But I do enjoy quiet, right? So I like quiet here, here, and here, and blah blah blah. Like that's a need, but the nuance of that is you understanding something internally, which is where this inward facing process had to come before any kind of connection and relationship. And if this isn't about relationship for you, if you're coming here in the absence of that energy, or in the absence of not so much that, that's really horrible wording. If you're coming here from a different perspective or a different energy, okay, this is more about this could be soulmates at work, right? Like I have I had one coworker that was like, she's my work mom, right? I have another one that was like, my I joke that it was like my work wife, right? Like those types of things where those are the coworkers, and we would send each other memes after I left that location, and it would be like that feeling when you miss your friends and whatever. And but that's like, it's like that two of cups at work, right? Like where you find your people at work. A lot of the when I worked at a bookstore, up to I left in 2014, but there are so many friends that I have that I still talk to occasionally, but that I'm still close to from that time period, right? That's a two of cups. That's a two of cups at work, right? One of them is I've known her for actually all of them for over 10 years now. So it's like those are your two of cups, right? But it's like you had to understand something about your needs being important, and not just your needs being important. That feels so like, it's that too is not specific. There's an absence of specificity, and nothing drives my neurodivergence as off the rails as much as not being specific about things, because then it means that I have to infer. And it's not that I don't mind the work of doing that, but sometimes there are cognitive leaps and there are hoops that neurotypicality creates, that neurodivergence then has to jump through to get to the same conclusion. So specificity is really just a blessing and a gift, not because it's trying to burden other people with something, but because it's just making more space to say, this is what I mean specifically, so that you don't have to spend hours trying to figure it out, because it's just the way that neurodivergent brains work, right? And there are different ways that expresses, but specificity is just two on the time. Specificity is just like my absolute favorite and best friend. And people can sometimes think I'm being a bit of an ass because I am specific I'm specific about specific things. Fancy that. But it's like understanding how all of that comes together. So, and maybe this is about you being specific too, because that's specificity, right? Like you can feel like people are taking your energy, or you can feel like there's like this, I'm hearing it, like their energy vampirism can become more. You can also facilitate that in your energy by not being specific, right? Because then other people have to guess what you mean. And then that means, are you really heard, seen, and validated, right? Are you really in that place of, light? Or do you feel like you have to get what you need under the moon, right? Do you feel like that's like hidden? Is that how that comes across? So specificity is everything here. And I feel like it unlocks this beautiful, this is obviously a relationship card, but it also means the choice originally. And to me, this is Gemini energy, and it reflects in Mercury. It's like, I think it's a communication card in terms of Mercury on the one hand, but it's also a bit of like this analyzing the data as well. That's what I'm getting, right? Like this analysis process that then allows you to communicate a conclusion, that then allows you to communicate something. So it's almost like a process. And then this card reminds me a little bit of this kind of analysis. And some people might say that this is like being immobilized in that analysis, but I feel less like it's the immobilization and more about understanding what was most important. So this is almost like a search for your why, or reconnecting to that energy at the very least. And this can happen in long-term relationships too. Like you can be with someone, I'm sure, for 10 years. I've seen this where it's, and it's not that you're re-exploring your why for being in the relationship. You're re-exploring your why in relationship to the routines that you've developed as a couple, or as a polycule. right, for my poly friends. So it's like you're looking at the routines, you're looking at the why behind the architecture of your everyday lives. You're looking at the why that informs the threads of meaning, right? I think I'm seeing like in the concrete pads of a home, there's usually those steel rods, right? Those are your why because they make up the depth of the foundation. It's not just the concrete, it's the stuff within the concrete that holds the form for the concrete. So what are those whys? And it's just an exploration of that. And I think it unlocks a better part of your emotions here. Again, this is soul contract and soulmate energy to me. So you could be coming into contact with a soulmate because of this process, right? And I don't think there's a huge effort involved in this. The Hanged Man is not, it's not like blood, sweat, and tears. That's like, how good can it get? Like, how relaxed can I be through this process, right? Yeah. Spirit, what messages do you have for my creative collective, my daily creatives for July 29th, please? I'm just going to pull a few to clarify. Six of Wands. I mean, this could also be like, if you're dating multiple people, like if you're dating a few people casually, and I think this could also be kind of a getting serious about someone. The reason why I say that is because of the Seven of Cups here. There's nothing to, like the Seven of Swords is here, but that's in the overcoming position. So it's not something that's nefarious happening in the background. I see this because the Two of Cups and the Lovers is clarified by the Six of Wands. Nope, that's the Seven of Wands. Take that back. So don't worry about that. Actually, yeah, too. That could be because this is an advocacy card. I was thinking it was the Six of Wands, and I was like, no, there's one person. There's one person that's like caught your eye, or that it's like getting serious about with the Lovers and Two of Cups. But this is also an advocacy card, so it could be something similar. It could be something quite similar to that. I think this is also just sticking up for what you want and what you like. If you're in a relationship, it could be that you're sticking up for the relationship too, right? Like I've experienced relationships where the person was like, it felt like it felt like the relationship was like an invisible part of their life, and that was indicative of the fact that it wasn't meant to be. But it's like sticking up for the relationship. Like if I'm dating somebody and I'm with somebody and like there's an exclusivity thing going on and someone hits on me in front of that person, I am obviously like and even if they're not watching, like why wouldn't you, like why would you flirt, why would you engage, you know what I mean? It's stuff like that where it's like, I don't know, because that's the other part too, where there's a specificity, right? But that could be this as well. Like the Seven of Wands is like sticking up for what you want, and that you want the relationship, that you want a specific person, because that's like the behaving accordingly, right? So okay, so on the Hanged Man and the Hanged Man, the Hermit, and the Seven of Swords, we have the King of Cups and the Page of Cups. So King of Cups and Page of Cups. I almost get that this is possibly a little bit of the shadow. Like this is coming across as like a shadow aspect of your heart space, where maybe you felt a little bit like you in terms of this specificity, like maybe it felt a bit safer to kind of tuck yourself away. But I think that it's really important to understand this is almost like forgiving yourself a little bit, forgiving yourself if there were Seven of Swords situations that put you in a position of wanting to hide away, forgiving yourself on the one hand, but I think it's also a matter of integrating the shadow, which I think it's coming across here as you doing so. So if you are doing that, you're on the right path. The King of Cups here too is, I think, a recognition that the shadow is sometimes like it's about getting more vulnerable, because I think about the shadow as a concealing energy, right? A concealing energy that makes you feel conciliatory as opposed to sticking up for what's most important to you. Again, this is loud here, right? And sticking up for what's most important to you can be in a relationship, but it can also just be like, well, what's most important to you about the relationship? What's most important to you about a job, about a project, right? And going back to that, returning to that energy as informing your next steps, right? This could also be an offer in terms of like flirting or dating with the Page of Cups here. Very innocent. It's very innocent. So we have the Sun, the King of Cups, Three of Wands. This is almost like emotional insight, emotional insight that is going to help you make any decisions, or that is informing some decision making right now. Yeah, and the building of the firm foundation. Yeah, so there's something about your, it's like, emotional insight is the insight that will get you closer to joy. So even if you are listening to other people's advice, so even if you're taking in other people's words of wisdom, what you're doing is testing them against that emotional insight from you. And that's sort of the metric that needs to be the barometer, as opposed to like, how will it look? How will it, adhere to X, Y, and Z standard? No. How does it feel? How does it feel? Because I'm learning and understanding that relationships need to have an aspect of scaring the shit out of you. Not because it's like intensity versus intimacy, right? It's not like that. Anything that's really important to you will scare you a little bit to do. It'll make you second guess yourself, not because you don't think you can handle it, but because it scares you, because that is something that's really important to you. That is, yeah. I do see this kind of decision-making process and this little bit of maybe being outside of yourself, like feeling like you have to like move yourself away from a situation or out of it just to kind of get your bearings. I see you as doing that with the Six of Pentacles here. I definitely see you as doing that. Spirit, what messages do you have? I'm going to pull a second one just to clarify. Two of Wands. Yeah. There's definitely some planning here. You could be once you make this decision, it could be planning for some kind of, it could be planning for a date with the Page of Cups here. It could also just be planning for some kind of success, right? That could be something, a way that you may need to frame your thought process in place right now, as you're planning for success, because you don't want to just dive in without consideration, because that's the other thing too, overthinking is one thing, but it's kind of an exquisite thoughtfulness that I'm seeing here, this like exquisite thoughtfulness. And we have the Hermit on the Eight of Pentacles. Yeah, I see this as like, it's almost like a thoughtfulness that's the other side of the Hermit, right? That's the one side that isn't the challenge. So it's like understanding your own, perhaps your own nonsense, if I can say it so gently, but it's understanding that where you might go into a hermit place and say, oh, I'm just doing this. I'm just being thoughtful, when really you're kind of trying to hide yourself away, right? So it's understanding how that can become a little bit of your kind of not your own worst enemy, but because that's a really strong position. But it's just how that can take away from your best intentions, right? It can take away from your best laid plans. So I'm going to pull one more just to clarify here. And we have Strength. Yeah, that's beautiful. You're right on track. You're right where you need to be. The Strength card tells me a whole lot. This is Leo season. This is also the Leo full moon that we're in the midst of the effects of. So that's, it happened yesterday, but, yeah, there could be a lot this is a beautiful, I see this, there's a potential for new, whether it's a new cycle, whether it's a new, way of engaging with an existing relationship, a way of engaging with new friends, a fresh take on a job that you have, a fresh take on a direction for your career. There's just a lot of new, like it's like spring vibes, right? Spring vibes, maybe the cycle that you're in. So this one says, take flight. Okay. Dear you, there is always more than one side to an argument, two sides, if not more, to every story, and hundreds of ways to be right, to be different, be at odds, and so on. Today, we suggest that instead of looking for differences, you find a meeting place of agreement and approach this experience with understanding and compassion. Seek common ground to understand how another person thinks or how an alternative plan might be laid. Stay out of judgment, too. Observe, discern, that hanged man. Observe, discern, but accept that others have different stories, experiences, and journeys, and some people might refuse to remain open to another's point of view. No matter what, I think that's part of this energy here. No matter what, you've been presented with a great opportunity to explore a new way of doing things once common ground is reached. Yeah, that's really this. Once common ground is reached, you're attracting people and situations that enrich your life. Oh, it's shaking a little bit. Hang on. Is that an awkward angle? Here we go. You're attracting people and situations that enrich your life and bring you wonderful things to learn. We love you so much. Yeah. So I think that's a big thing here. And looking at situations as learning opportunities as opposed to needs fulfillment opportunities changes everything. So just be deeply curious. Be deeply curious. I think that's a beautiful Friday message. So that's what I've got for you, my daily creatives. If this resonated, give it a like and sub. Oh, I forgot the affirmation. Can you imagine? Oh, what am I doing? Spirit, what messages do you have to close out this reading for my daily creatives? I listen to the wisdom of my heart. Yes. Beautiful. I listen to the wisdom of my heart. And that's the King of Cups, right? Place your hand over your heart. Ask your heart what it wants you to know today. Oh, and just listen, my lovelies. Okay, so that is it. If this resonated, give it a like and subscribe. I'd love to have you on the channel if you are not here already joining me for my subscriber base. But if you are, thank you so much. I really appreciate that you're here. So yeah, there are other ways you can connect, so do check that out. But if this is where we part, I hope that wherever this finds you on the time-space continuum, morning, afternoon, or night, I hope that it finds you very well, my friends. Take care, and happy Charlie Day. Take care, guys.